It's one prize, it's an England t-shirt, bottle of whiskey, an England flag as well. Just one prize, one ticket, the whole lot. So the lucky winner is strip 76, 79. Who have we got? 76 and 79. That's short and sweet. Now, I'm not actually going to give a formal talk tonight. It's not that many months since I was here last. I can't begin to remember what I spoke about, but it was a full-blown speech. So, avoid running the risk of repeating myself for those who were here then. And there are a fair few faces I know from before. I'm not going to give a formal speech. There's another reason, but I know also there's some new people here, people who aren't sure quite whether to join the BNP, people who are going to take back to friends and relatives and workmates. Well, this is what they are like. And quite simply, we've had a lot of speeches anyway. You've already heard different aspects of the party, ideas, how we work, what we're doing, what our council is going to achieve. But if I just make a speech, I can pick the subject, I can spin it like the other politicians do, and I can make a speech that tailors to what I think is going to suit. I don't want to do that. I want to give people, especially new people, the chance just to answer questions about any aspect of BNP policy, what we do locally, what we think should be done on the international stage, any of the awful things you've heard about us. Start with thick skin, I'm not fussed. No one's going to throw you out of the meeting for asking something awkward. Make them as awkward as you like. Questions that you've got, or mates have said, you're involved with the BNP, I'm not sure about that. Anything you like, because that's the way that politics should be done, where there's no big gap between the people who are saying vote for us and the public as a whole. And that's what's happened in this country now. There's this enormous gap between a little incestuous ruling elite, and the only time they touch us is when they get their hands in our pockets. And the rest of the time they don't want to know our views. They know what our views are on things like capital punishment for child murders. They know the vast majority of British people want that, but they don't want it. So 650 odd MPs, some of them are very odd, as a matter of fact, because they, 650, want something. The views of 80-85% of the British people go to the board. They're not interested at all. The same with our membership of the European Union. They know perfectly well that the majority of people in this country believe already we shouldn't be in the European Union, ruled by foreigners over whom we have no say, not even by elected people, just unelected people, hundreds of miles away in different countries, from different countries. They know that the majority of our people already don't want that, and they know damn well that if the majority of our people knew just how serious the European Union threat is, and just how much more power and influence and control over our own lives we're facing over the next few years, they would know that the vast majority of the British public would oppose it. But they're not interested in our views. We voted once where the people who wanted to keep us in what was then the common market, for every pound that those of us who wanted to get out spent in the campaign, they had £11. An 11 to 1 imbalance in the spending that election, in that referendum. And they say to the British people, you had your say on whether to be in the European Union or not. We didn't have our say. People then, you're old enough to remember, you had your say on whether you wanted to be in a free trade area, where if you voted for it, you wouldn't have to take your passport to France, and you get cheap red wine. And you still have to take your passport to France, and Gordon Brown taxes red wine like everything else to an enormous extent. So we've had a referendum not on whether this country's sovereignty should be utterly ditched and we become a province in someone else's empire. So they know on mass immigration. There's no point in me coming to a place like Kirklees to tell you some of the effects of mass immigration and the creeping Islamisation of this country. Some parts of the country I go to and I need to tell them that, because they know there's something wrong, because they perhaps read the Daily Mail, but they haven't got the faintest idea of just how wrong it is, just what ordinary decent families in places like this actually have to put up with. And I don't need to tell you what any of those things are at all. I know that. So there's no need for me to talk about that. But nevertheless, one thing we can say is that our politicians, they had a duty to stop these things happening, or if they weren't clever enough to realise what was going to happen. Now they can see what's going on. They've got a duty on behalf of our people, on behalf of the decent people in the Asian and Muslim community and so on. They've got a duty to speak out and do something about it. And they abdicate that duty every possible time. They turn a blind eye to the problem. They pretend even more than that. They pretend the problem doesn't exist. And if someone does speak out about the problems, they try to throw us in prison. It's scandalous, it's disgraceful. And in everything, there's this enormous gap between us, the ordinary British people in general, and the English in particular, one of the most oppressed people there's been in modern history. The English, we're not even allowed, until recently, with a lot of pressure, we weren't even allowed to call ourselves English on census form. Nowhere for it. And they say, oh, every ethnic group is going to be fairly treated and so on. They wouldn't even recognise us as an ethnic group. We're the invisible people, except when it comes to paying taxes. There's an enormous gulf between us and our masters. This party isn't like that. We're totally different. There is no gulf because we are the party of the people. And by way of showing that, that's it. Not a pre-prepared speech. Let's have some questions. Where do we start? I don't want these stunned silence speeches. Come on. Yeah.
The red, white and blue, would you recommend it?
What's the red, white and blue? It's the party's annual summer family festival. Hitherto it's been held over in Lancashire. This year, because the farmer whose land we've had it has come under immense pressure from the local council, not actually just because of us, but because he's been diversifying the land and having other people at festivals and so on, basically following on from our lead. So this year it's going to be, I think, about an hour and... How far down the M? Oh, it's gone with me. About an hour and 10 minutes down the M1 in Derbyshire. It's a huge, I suppose it's a weekend-long family festival, family fete. There's something for absolutely everybody. It's, in a little way, on some little field in England, it's a hint of what this country was at its best and what we would make it. You can bring kids of all ages along and let them run around loose, knowing perfectly well they're completely safe, with no problems at all. You can come along and have a few drinks, knowing that no one around there is going to be rat-ass, making a spectacle of themselves and making you feel uncomfortable, and so on and so forth. There's a series of political speeches. It's just a lovely time, isn't it, those who've been there?